Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. We are back at long last, and I got to tell you what, you're welcome if you're listening, because as someone who did a 5-hour drive up to Mammoth and then back down, it's a little bleak in the podcast streets, Andy. Not a lot to listen to out there, and that's okay, because we're going to provide you with a very interesting and entertaining podcast today, and it's going to be NFL based. So I'm fired up. How about you? How you doing?
Yeah, it is NFL season all year round, Drew, and I know I listened to like a golf one. I listened to a couple of things here and there, but honestly, like, we had some weird temps up here, so I like to, like, midway through my day, because I'm office bound, I like to just get up and go for a walk. I go for a walk around. There's a bike path. It's right by a river. I always see this me and this blue heron. We have a thing. I wave at him.
I knew you were a big bird guy. Yeah.
It was 25 below zero the other last week. Just didn't happen. I'm like, God, I gotta just join the gym again so I can go walk on a treadmill or something. I'm gonna get fatter. It's funny too that there were places in this area that had 100-degree difference in a week. Like it was 30 below in parts of South Dakota, and then it was almost 70 this week. So it's been nice, and I've kind of experienced the same thing. It's been kind of rough. I haven't had a ton to listen to.
Patrick says he recommends Bet the Edge. Little Bet the Edge news for those who don't already know.
We're doing that here.
I might as well. I mean, the folks. This is now my platform, Andy. They're going to sunset Bet the Edge at least until football season, and use our talents over at NBC to record shorter form videos that apparently make more money on the website than the YouTube stuff does. So
somebody else got hired. Somebody got hired higher up or promoted, and they came up with the idea.
It's actually even more complicated than that. It's like, when NBC got the NBA contract, we were all like, high fives, yes, NBA, and it's coming to us, like, yeah, like we got the inside track on betting content for NBA, right? Well, we actually need a lot more help for production to be able to do what they bid to do, and I think ultimately just too much strain on production and being able to produce daily content. So I think a lot of things are going to change this offseason as they retool to be able to broadcast NBA. And also, like, you know, next Super Bowl is going to be wild, where you have everybody pulling everyone from different parts of the company to cover Winter Olympics, Super Bowl, and NBA All-Star break at the same time. So,
you know what? Will Brinson messaged me about something else. He wanted something. He doesn't ever message me just to say hi. But he said in the golf podcast I do earlier in the week, my volume, he's like, get closer to the mic. So I don't know, Showtime, I just adjusted some settings.
You just nudged the Rodecaster?
Yeah, I have it at max volume here. I don't know. Maybe I need to hit. Oh, now I'm hitting Bluetooth buttons. Let me know if that's better. Otherwise, I'll continue to play with the technical aspects as we go. And yeah, it's crazy what like 45 degrees with the sun out does. My wife was outside in a lawn chair, like, just because she doesn't love this time of year. But the holidays are over and it's just gray and bleak and cold.
25 below is going to break anyone's spirit.
Yeah, it really, dude. It was the kids had like a 6-day weekend because well, I don't know, they say it's because of the diesel. You know, diesel gums up when it gets so cold, and they worry that some of the rural buses will be, you know, stranded if they die out there or something, and then you have a bunch of kids out but I think they just take any excuse to take the day off. I can remember once having the day off for cold when I was a kid. And you know who called it off that day? I'll give you a
Jesse Ventura.
Jesse fucking Ventura.
He's like, no, if it's too cold for me, it's too cold for you, kid.
He said the whole state. Well, that was like 50 below wind chills. Like,
Christ.
I mean, that's Antarctic, you know.
That was like when the Vikings played outside against the Seahawks type of temperatures. You remember that one?
I do.
But
it was on a cruise ship.
Yeah, so
much warmer.
Yeah, if you're looking for betting banter from yours truly, you can find it here at Deep Dive podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts for the foreseeable future. Although not next week, because I'll be in Jackson Hole skiing, which is exciting.
Maybe I need to just bring back the old Daily Show. I don't even need to see it. Like I'll just show up in the morning.
You think we can against it?
Well, no, I'm just saying I will get up in the morning. I'll go on the YouTube whenever I wake up, and I'll just go over the news from the day before, and I'll complain.
That's your right to do because you're paying attention to the news.
What was the news yesterday? Well, no, like sports news, like Luka, weird. He was motivated and he beat the Tar. But you know what? Speaking of Noops took the points, rebounds, assists under on Luka.
Did he get that
cash?
By the hair of his chin. So even with the triple
he had
double,
like 40. He had like 45. He didn't have a ton of points. It was like 19 points. So I think it was like 43, 44, somewhere in there. He had for PRA. So shout out to my old podcast partner Noops for a nice little bet. Before we get to football, I guess I can complain about one more thing.
Sure, hit me.
Did you watch any of the Sunday golf?
From WGC Acapulco, Puerto Vallarta. Where were we? No.
So it's not Puerto Vallarta. It's close.
It's kind of near.
It's near it. It's very close to that. But
Nueva Vallarta.
The entire golf community had found this guy that we love from Europe that hits the ball a country mile.
Sure.
And everybody bet on him a couple weeks ago. It didn't go so hot. But you get to this course in Mexico, it's a great fit because it's a resort course. It's where you can go play it on vacation.
Yeah.
So it's not really set up for
somebody
pros.
who can bomb.
They just make it a little longer. It's still so easy. And bombers just crush those courses. So everyone's like, well, let's bet him again. And he's out to a first round lead. He's out to a 4-shot lead. He's out to a 3-shot lead. And he has done this before. He shot like a 75 on Sunday in Europe to lose a big lead. So it's kind of his MO. Not everyone.
Not everyone.
I'm going to mute Cal because he's got a victory. I'm having the other guy. A lot of people bet Pot Geeter. And he finds his way into a playoff. He did have to do a little coming back. Finds his way into a playoff. Tee shot for the other guy who Cal bet because Cal's an asshole. But we love him and he's the sharpest kid I know. The tee shot duck hooks, takes a right turn into the woods.
Ooh.
Hits a tree. I think it hits 2 trees. I think it was like a JFK.
They have trees in Puerto Vallarta?
Yeah, it hit these trees. And it came back into the fairway. Guy wins the tournament. Essentially, it's the out of bounds shot that.
What a luck box!
Like, when you see it doing that, it's over. I mean, people are beside themselves.
Wow. Well, I'm sorry, man. I had a bunch of heartbreak in tennis. I've been running bad ever since the NBA All-Star break ended. So,
but we got the good one. We got the good ones coming up. We are about to Sunshine Double.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Favorites.
That's
2 of my favorite tournaments.
Plus, the women's tour right now is just absolute chaos. I could make a credible case that Mira Andrews is the best player on the women's tour right now. It's wild.
She is.
We're in the Wild West. She's gotten a lot
not
bigger.
Even 18, is she?
Have you? No, but she's obviously still growing. Do you see like the size of her freaking back and her trunk is just continues to get larger. Like she
broke onto the scene like 2 years ago?
16-year-old, yeah. 15-year-old. Yeah, 14-year-old. I forget now. Yeah, but she still has a couple more years as a teenager. She's only teening in like the top 50, and she just broke through.
Like, by the way, when you get these players that comes, they don't let them do it anymore. But when you had some of these players like Kobe and KG, who were like, "Hey, I'm in the NBA now," even though I had a graduation party 3 months ago or whatever, and those guys were they were skinny. They just didn't have much on them. And obviously, it's the same kind of thing with these young tennis players. You never know how they're going to fill out.
Okay. Well, I think we've covered, that's been some delightful banter. Let's get into the NFL.
I don't have any baseball takes.
It's spring training. So if you go to spring training, enjoy. You're going to love it. It's not 25 degrees below, I'll tell you that much. It is full on like spring conditions here in Southern California. Southwest we have a high pressure ridge over us right now. I think tomorrow, I'm sorry to rub this in, but tomorrow's high is going to be 79. Oh, was it? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
it's completely turned around.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we got really beautiful weather coming, which is exciting. But I'm gonna go skiing, so I'm gonna freeze my ass off up in Jackson. That said, I'm gonna do a lot of
I'm going
drinking.
to
And I'm gonna do a lot of
Jackson.
skiing. Oh god, it's gonna be good. I cannot
It's a
wait.
really
400
it's
inches
funny.
of snow already this season up there. Oh,
Funny. My wife
you've
makes
been there,
last
right?
thing before we get to football. My wife makes these books. Maybe other people can empathize with me here
Sure.
on Shutterfly.
The photo comp, the photo,
The photo
yeah,
book. So
the
you build like a
collage.
scrapbook on the
Yeah.
computer, and then you buy a book, and
Oh,
it ships to
it's
you, and then it's
phenomenal.
like, oh, here. Every time we go on a
Phenomenal.
vacation or do something, she does one of those.
Yeah.
Or there's one for the whole year. Every year has one. Here's all the stuff we did this year, and there's like 20 of these things, more than that probably. But anyway, my youngest was looking at him, and he's like, "Oh, Dad, do you remember this?" I don't remember stuff like at all because my brain is just going. But we had it was a picture of me with a flight of beers, and then he had chicken strips, and he was such a pain. He's still a pain in the ass. He eats really slow. Like everyone finishes, he takes 10 more minutes. So I had a race with him. I remember I said, whoever loses has to give the other one a piggyback ride. I mean, he was like 40 pounds, so he can't lose. And it was chicken strips versus my beers. He's like, Dad, you remember when you drank all those beers while I was eating chicken? I'm like, what? What are you talking about? I had to look at the picture. And it was at that.
You're
good
setting
brewery.
a great role model for your son. This is awesome.
I beat him, or I let him win. I think I let
You let him win. Okay, that's even
I
better.
slow rolled the last beer.
That's even better.
Well, I didn't want to have to jump on his back and hurt the kid permanently.
You told me about that brewery, and I went last time I was there, and that's at the top of my list to go back when we go into town.
This was like 2 days ago, and I'm like, I want to get back to Jackson this summer. We should do just like a Yellowstone trip.
Nothing stopping you. Except I guess the national parks might not be open. We'll see. I'm so fired up. I have a shitload more work to get done, but I'm very close to being mentally on vacation, and I'm just delighted. But with that, let's make some content. Let's talk some football. And we could do the standard, what everyone's doing, and talk about division by division needs. What do we expect from these teams in the offseason? Blah, blah, blah. There's not really a gambling component to that. And if you want that, there's plenty of that out there. So I will just say that rather than getting super nerdy with you guys on the combine and the prospects, which I could not even do if I tried because I have no freaking clue about these kids because they're just kids. I can at least tell you that most of the pricing that you should be doing right now, beyond just having your schedule and knowing opponents and kind of understanding where there are kind of differential strength of schedule within division. The other kind of pricing exercise should be, what are the distributions of potential starting quarterbacks for some of these teams? Because there could be some divisions where we have three new starters. Like, I don't think there's any fours, but there's some threes. There's a three. And so, I mean, if you can kind of gauge what direction these teams are going to go in, and or if we can decide, well, this guy's probably not going to be here, where will he land? I think that's actually a worthwhile handicapping task. What do you think?
No, for sure. It's definitely the biggest lever when you talk about teams, because I think you asked me this question a couple weeks back, or maybe even Super Bowl time. It's like, is there somebody that someone could draft and it would like change your, it would markedly change your fair price for them to win the division, conference, Super Bowl, what have you? And I'm like, man, I don't think so. Just because I'm really not sold on Shador. I think Cam Ward might be okay. The other quarterbacks are fine, and then there's a bunch of defensive players. I think maybe you were asking about a defensive player, because that's where I was leading into with Abdul Carter. I think you asked about Myles Garrett. Is there a place where Myles Garrett lands where it's like, oh, I need to bet that team now?
Or you just need to look at the price. That's kind of what.
Or at least look at the price. And I think it's tough because he's one defensive player, but like you alluded to, it's a quarterback. It is the biggest piece of leverage. that can change a team's fortunes. Obviously, go look at Washington. You hit on a guy in the draft, it works out. I mean, even Minnesota, you find a guy who just fits into your system well enough for a bit of a bridge and stopgap. You can have a wildly different year than you were expected to based on your win-loss record.
I couldn't say it better. Let's go through draft order by teams, and let's first of all separate the likely changes versus the known quantities.
Okay.
Right? Because let's get the known quantities out of the way. Like, we don't need to talk about what do you think the Chiefs are going to do, Andy? All those big news. Travis Kelce's not ready to retire. Surprise. Whatever. But the NFL, the quarterback is so freaking important. I'd like to kind of talk through who we think are realistically going to be, changing their signal callers, and what those distributions look like, at least currently. So let's go pick 1 through 32 and just kind of put these teams in bins that we want to talk about, or we think it is effectively a 100% chance that we know who their starter will be.
Can I throw one thing out there quick? Just a quick RIP. NBA Centel.
Oh, really?
Down. It's down. I guess it's
they get hacked.
I think it's just like it's like parody, and it was too good at being parody, and the powers that be took it down. I don't know if it was part of the federal government stuff.
What about free speech stuff? I thought we were the bastion of free speech now. Parody law. What the hell, man?
They even had the parody tag.
Parody law. Yeah.
All right. Number one, I believe there's a pretty good chance we should put a pin in the Tennessee Titans, and they should have a different starter next year.
Yeah. There is a meaningful probability that Will Levis does start week 1. But there is a 0% probability that he ends as the starter. I feel like, or that he takes the majority of snaps. If he's the starter, he's the placeholder.
We'll come back to him.
Tennessee. Tennessee's on the list. Yep.
Yeah, we'll rip through them quick, and then we'll come back. Cleveland
on the list. Who the
You're
fuck
definitely on the list.
There, man?
You got some issues. Giants
list.
Ultimatum season list.
Yep.
The first one. And this is fun because the top team, the 4th and 5th teams, the New England Patriots and Jacksonville Jaguars, they got their shit together.
Do they?
Well, enough.
As far as quarterback goes, sure.
More than some of the other teams at the top of the list. So Drake May should, could. Yes, he's your starter.
Yes.
Trevor Lawrence as well.
Yes.
The Giants, the Raiders are
on
the
the list.
One so far, they're on the list. The Jets. If they had to start right now, would be starting Tyrod Taylor, because Aaron Rodgers is not welcome back in that locker room, so they're on the list.
Yeah.
The Panthers.
We gotta kick the tires there.
Do we?
We gotta kick the tires.
They just signed Andy Dalton. They just signed Andy Dalton to another year. Like, kind of feels like
we can maybe get them out of the way quickly, but we gotta keep them in.
All right, we'll talk about them quickly, but that one didn't make my list. It wasn't a strong one. New Orleans,
absolutely.
It's going to be really complicated how they're going to have to do this, but everything about their cap situation stuff is complicated. It'll be one of those post-June 1st releases, but it sounds like it's up in the air, and Carr might be on the way out.
Okay.
And yes, as Alex is pointing out, the Raiders are on this list every year. That's fair. So, New Orleans
Raiders didn't have their week 1 starter picked until who ended up winning it? Was it AOC got it by default by sucking less in the? I can't remember. Was the AOC start week 1 last year?
No,
Minshew started. Minshew was
started,
less
then
shitty.
he got hurt.
Minshew was less shitty in the
and then he got
preseason.
injured.
And that was one of the most uncomfortable preseason pressers you ever want to see. Just a dejected coach who knows the season's over before it started. Antonio Pierce is just lost. Like, I guess it's Minshew. All right. Chicago is 100% going to be Caleb Williams, so we can scratch them. So. San Francisco, should we talk about them? Is it for sure going to be Brock Purdy?
I want to put him on the list. I'm 99% sure it's Purdy, but let's talk about the situation they're in with him because it's a fucking
Okay. San Francisco, we will talk about. Dallas is. We
it's
think
stacked.
Prescott will be healthy and ready to start week 1.
He should be fine.
Okay. Prescott is in for Dallas. Tua is the guy in Miami, right?
He is.
They're paying him so much he has to be, right?
I think so.
Indianapolis, we got to talk about.
Colts go on the list. Yep.
Colts go on the list.
And you know what? The Falcons should go on the list too, just because it's interesting.
Even though
how
we
that's gonna
probably
happen.
know it. We probably know. I think we can make that distribution like 95-5. But yeah, they go on the list. Arizona,
No.
100% Murray.
100% Murray.
100%.
Yeah.
Murray's not like a surprise whoopsie do trade, like from the clouds.
I mean, I think the only quarterback they have in roster is Clayton Tune.
Yeah, well, I mean, they would have to have some other
Are
plan.
they saying we need to move on from Kyler Murray and bring in
I don't know.
Kirk Cousins? That's the future of this franchise. The free agent class is
I don't know.
not great, Bob.
It's
I'm putting Cardinals at 100%
It's not.
for now
Okay.
for this exercise.
Okay.
Oh, God.
The Bengals is 100% Joe Burrow. Seattle, we got to talk Seattle.
We do have to talk Seattle.
There was some interesting comments from Mr. Schneider about we believe Geno Smith is our guy, but a little bit of whiff of dreaded vote of confidence there.
Yeah. We got the Jeff Fisher vote of confidence. Tampa Bay, 100% Baker.
100%
Denver,
Baker.
100% Knicks.
100% Knicks. Okay. Pittsburgh's on the list.
Is on the list.
That one's going to be a tough distribution, man. I'm curious if you're reading the tea leaves on that one. There are 4 teams where I'm literally just going to throw my hands up and look to you to come up with something fun.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do. Chargers, 100%. Packers, 100%. Vikings get put on the list, obviously.
Vikings on the list.
There's stuff to talk about.
Yep. Houston, 100% Stroud.
Yes.
Ramathorns on the list.
On the list. They're the last one, I think.
Baltimore, 100%. Lamar Jackson.
Lamar.
Yeah. Detroit.
This is where you hit the button in hearts. The rest are mine. Like
you're good. You're good with the rest of this.
This is starters.
Detroit's the one I want to kind of come back to. It was a pretty bad loss by Goff at home with the bye.
Yeah.
I know it wasn't all his fault, but still, like, you got to win now, team, right? You got a couple year window. Like, you're really gonna let this thing dry on the vine with Goff?
I know, it just I get what you're saying, but is it?
What if he was a Ben Johnson merchant?
Yeah, but also, are we like? Again, it's the same thing I just said. Are we a Kirk Cousins away from winning the Super Bowl? Are we a who else? Are we a Sam Darnold? Obviously,
hey man,
you saw what Sam Darnold did against you.
If the Niners won't pay Brock Purdy, make him an offer to try to get Brock in there. If Matt Stafford has a little 2-year window left, not being appreciated down in
I don't know.
Rams. I gotta tell you, man, this is my fan fiction. This is my fan fiction.
37 touchdowns.
This is my fan fiction corner for if I was writing the script for the NFL. And by the way, hire some writers, guys. It's been a very boring, little stretch here. If I was writing the script, it would be Stafford, Goff trading back to their respective homes. Oh God, that would be so good.
That would be
so good. Goff is more on the timeline of the kids in LA anyway, and Stafford is on the timeline of the current Lions team, which is knocking on the door. And to happen twice in your career to get traded for a guy who could get the team over the hump would be fucking bananas.
Done this.
It would be bananas.
We've had this exact scenario. Not exact, obviously.
When?
Somebody went from Akron to Cleveland to Miami and then came back home and won his championship. He went elsewhere to get his title, and then he says, I'm coming back.
Oh.
I'm coming back to the land, guys.
That's good.
And then him and Kyrie got it done. I mean, it's not even close to the same scenario, but it feels like, Stafford goes back to his first team. I know he's not like, a kid from Pontiac, Michigan that lived his dreams playing for the Lions, but Yeah, it doesn't feel super likely, but I'll entertain it because it's fucking February.
God, that would be that would just be absolutely perfect fan fiction. You know, if that sort of thing happens, you know what it happens? It happens on like the first day of the NBA playoffs. So the NFL can just like stick their thumb right in the eye of the NBA and be like, ha ha ha. Everyone's talking about this now.
Remember what we did to you on Christmas, motherfucker?
Although, hey, NBA stole the show in New Orleans. I got to tell you, people wanted to talk Luka Doncic. They did not give two shits about Chiefs Eagles, which was fun.
A good game, though.
It was a great game. Anyway, okay. Washington 100% JD, Buffalo 100% JA, and then of course Kansas City is Mahomes, and I'm kind of super interested to see what they do with that restructure and whether that kind of, you know, speaking of homecomings, does that like open the door to try to make a deal to bring like a Tyreek Hill back or something fun like that? Like that would be another fun homecoming that I would love to see facilitated with this cap increase that we're hearing about. And then of course Hurts in Philly is, what do you think? What's the over under on years he starts for the Eagles now?
3.5.
What?
Like total or
no? How many more years he has now as the starter in Philly?
1.5.
That's actually a very hot take. That's a very hot take.
It just feels like it's the kind of team who moves on quickly if he's showing any signs of cracks. That is a front office that does not give a shit what you did for him.
Patrick is right. The end of NHL did thunderfuck the NBA with their All-Star break was much better. But actually, I don't think the NBA really cares about the All-Star break, for being honest.
No one cares about the All-Star.
No, yeah.
You know what? There's no way to replicate
It's just a corporate mess. Yeah.
There's no way to replicate it in the other sports, but here's how little I pay attention to hockey. Like, I didn't even know that was the replacement for the All-Star break. I thought it was just like, oh, we're doing, you know,
it was just some in worlds like in prep for the Olympics next year.
Yeah, I just thought it was like the World Baseball Classic or something fun.
Wait, what was it?
Well, no, it was a replacement for the All-Star.
It was a replacement for the All-Star. Okay.
Yeah, I had no idea. I'm just like, oh, cool, like a team tournament or whatever.
The NBA can steal that next year. Let's just do international versus Americans and really,
but
really
I don't know that they care that much.
Who knows?
Although, God, it just reminds me of the clip, speaking of Mamba again, of him just going right through Paul.
Yeah. Okay. Let's start at the top.
Let's go back to the beginning.
Tennessee. Here is my probability distribution for Tennessee. You can agree or disagree.
I will disagree.
I think that there is a 30% chance that Levis is the week 1 starter. I think there is a 40% chance that Cam Ward is the week 1 starter. And I think there is a 30% chance that a KG vet starts the year for the Titans as they punt on 2025 and fire Callahan and let the new GM hire his own guy and draft his own, draft a quarterback in a more quarterback rich draft. So that 30% world will send, I don't know, Aaron Rodgers to Tennessee.
The free agent class is pretty rough too. I know everyone's complaining about everyone's complaining about the quarterbacks in the draft, but the free agent class is kind of just terrible. As bad. I don't know what Tennessee's going to do. They've kind of said all the things that are just super ambiguous. Yeah, we'll listen to people wanting to trade up. We'll listen to, people wanting to trade for the first pick. We're open to anything. We want the quote about drafting a generational talent kind of speaks to not taking a quarterback. I wonder if the case would be, hey, and maybe it isn't even we're going to get rid of Callahan. Maybe we've said to Callahan, hey, we know you inherited a bad situation last year. You can't win without a quarterback. We were hoping you could do something with him. We're not going to put all the blame on you. There's no free agents to sign. There's no really generational quarterbacks in the draft. So you're kind of you're getting cornholed here in year 2. So I mean, it just really depends on the new GM and how he feels about Callahan, I guess. See, it's either what you said, and they're like, well, I want to bring in my own coach next year. I don't care how this year goes. We'll try to get some talent. Or they're saying, hey, you're just not getting a quarterback again. We're going to try to build everywhere else we can, cheaply and effectively and efficiently, and we'll see about the quarterback class in 2026.
Oh,
Then you draft Carter,
yeah.
you draft whatever. I can't even think of the name though. The wide receiver, cornerback,
Hunter,
Carter,
or Hunter. Yeah.
Everybody's, and because your options are like, they're not awful if you don't do Darnold. If you don't say, I'm going to pay Sam Darnold, 3 years, $28 million or something. Like, if you go just below that and you say, I'm going full ass bridge, we're bringing in Zach Wilson. We're bringing in
or Russell Wilson.
Mariota, Trey Lance, Jacoby Brissett.
I love Sam's comment here. Let's bring in Jake Browning, who looked very good with Brian Callahan. He looked very good with Brian Callahan as the OC at the end of that team. Yeah. Like that's kind of your ideal bridge.
They could bring Jamar Chase with him too.
Hell of a lot cheaper than an Aaron Rodgers type of thing. So okay, so I'm gonna stick with my 40% ward. I know people in the chat think that's high, but they might just
like 20.
You're a 20% ward. Okay, you think I'm high on Levis at 30?
Yeah, I think bridge quarterback
is like 60,
seems likely
70,
or bridge quarterback plus a dart. No pun intended because of Jackson, but
a trade down and a dart.
Ewers, darts, Milrow, maybe not even trade down.
Oh, 2.01.
I'm taking
2.01. A different rookie in 2.01. Yep.
You go Abdul Carter, Jalen Milrow. You take Ewers in the third round.
I'm seeking information, so we're gonna drop Levis in my numbers to 10%. We're gonna put 20% on what's his name, Wilson. Cam Ward, and then I'm gonna do 60% bridge, 10%
bridge
dart. Okay, that's good. That sounds right, actually, now that we've said it all out loud. 60% bridge.
For a team with the first overall pick, they're kind of dicked at quarterback still.
Okay.
It doesn't seem like...
Flamus Jameis would be funny. You know what's funny about that is that would entertain your fans, and it would give you a decent chance at being at the top of the draft next year. That should be your bridge. It really should. Really, really well called, Steven.
Drew Lock.
Yeah. I want more entertainment than Drew Lock. Drew Lock was sad. Drew Lock was sad bad last year. I don't need to see it anymore.
I mean, have you gone through the free agents? Do you want to just touch on that quick?
So it's fucking
Darnold,
terrible.
Wilson, Trey Lance, Jacoby Brissett, who's only 32 and has started a lot more games than some of these names. He's not. Somebody's going to sign him. He's going to start games this year. It feels like, because there's just a supply and demand problem with quarterbacks. Like, Zach Wilson will probably start games. Sam Darnold certainly will start games.
Sam Darnold is supposedly commanding in the 30s to $40 million a year.
Somebody who does that is going to feel so dumb.
I just like that's very Daniel Jonesy, and the fact that happened so recently, it would surprise me if somebody Daniel Jones is it. Although he's going to come up on this conversation.
I mean, the injury obviously made a difference, and apparently he was carrying other injuries. But if we keep doing this and signing Kevin O'Connell quarterbacks, and then being like, oh no, Kirk Cousins isn't good. Oh no, Sam Darnold isn't good now. It's kind of like these teams that keep signing the running backs that leave Philly. Like, we should pay this guy. See how many yards he had in Philly behind that awesome line with that great scheme. Like, people just keep signing those, and Philly just kept cycling through guys until they found, we could pay a little extra for Saquon. Anyway, back to that Heineke. I don't know if I love Heineke. Mariota is getting a little longer in the tooth somehow. Drew Lock, Stidham, Fields. Obviously, one of the youngest. Trey Lance and Fields and Zach Wilson are the youngest of all these guys. Flacco probably isn't going to play football. He's on the list, though. Winston, Mac Jones, Carson Wentz, Garoppolo, Keenum, Rudolph, Easton Stick, and then I think we're getting into the spots where you're talking Nick Mullins, Easton Stick, Cooper Rush.
I'm having a tough time finding homes for Darnold, Derek Carr, and Russell Wilson. Not sure where those guys land, but I do think
One
they
of those
probably
New
have
York
starting
team.
jobs.
One of
Okay.
those guys ends up in New York on one of the teams.
Okay. All right. Ooh, interesting. Okay. Well, let's move down to Cleveland because there is a lot of smoke connecting Mr. Kirk Cousins to Cleveland. This was like one of those weird things where every insider you have a conversation with during Super Bowl week was like, "Oh yeah, that's probably just going to happen," and you're like, "What? Huh?
I know.
Like really?"
That was getting
Like,
steam like at the beginning of the playoffs.
everyone was like, "Wait, this is just like it was one of those things where it's like the De'Aaron Fox to San Antonio thing, right?" Where
It's like the
oh, it's like as
Steelers
soon as
draft
the
pick every year.
yeah,
Everyone's just
exactly.
like, oh yeah, they're taking this guy.
So just good.
Well,
What?
it's Minka. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. But yeah, it was like that was so kind of openly, just talked about that. I feel like that's like I got to give that an 80% chance that Kirk Cousins is your guy. I don't get the sense at all that they're being serious about evaluating quarterbacks. Do you in the draft?
No, so there were the quotes that came out that said they're going to take a dual, a dual whatever.
Have you mocked them a quarterback in any of your mocks?
I think I've had them skipping it. I just have Shador as like probably not a top 10 kind of pick, and I keep dropping him. So I think I've had Cam Ward going there if if it does stay with Tennessee, they don't trade to a quarterback needy team and they take a defensive player like Hunter or Carter. It's tough to not look at him there if you're Cleveland because it's obviously a lot cheaper than the quarterback you're paying. That said, if they go Hunter or Carter, like I kind of want the other one too. Whoever they don't take, I'd be awful keen on getting that defensive player because I think both those guys can certainly change the game. And I think it probably comes down to how Barry and everyone feels about, Ward at that point. And if they say we want to do that, or we're going to bring in, him and somebody else, and it kind of sounded like they're going to do that. And I don't know if that means drafting a quarterback in the first round plus Kirk Cousins or, Kirk Cousins surrogate, or if it means something like I said with Tennessee where you go Ewers, Milroe, Dart, somebody like that. Down the board, get yourself a couple. I mean, if you sign Kirk Cousins, you should probably draft a quarterback. Apparently, we're learning from.
Yeah, but second round seems right, and getting an elite defender makes sense to me. I kind of think they're out.
No,
of the
I know
business.
you're still paying him, but I mean, just forward looking, 3-4 years down the road.
Sure.
And the thing about Kirk is too, Kirk is going to be in the. I think we had the same visceral, disgusted reaction to the Steelers, like, oh, they're in on Russ. And then you look at it and you're like, well, he's basically not getting paid.
Yeah,
by them at least.
Yeah.
Like it does make a lot more sense for your team when somebody else is paying his salary to kick the tires on him. And I mean, Atlanta has all but said he's gone. They said we're not going to keep him as a backup at $27 million a year. So he's gone, which means they're going to have to eat that. And whoever signs him is going to get a pretty damn good deal.
Yeah.
And maybe they just said, maybe he was hurt. Maybe we can fix him.
That whole side plot drama to this is just delicious. I love shit like that. I love it. Cousins coming out and saying, "Oh yeah, well, I mean, I had an elbow and a shoulder injury in my throwing arm from the Saints game." Like, wait, what? That wasn't disclosed. And then the Falcons response, "That's the first we're hearing about it." Like, what? Like, oh, okay. So that's how functional things were between you guys. Cool. Because it could go either way. He could be literally throwing dirt and fucking them on the way out, or he could be being honest, in which case, that does make his value and, at least perceived value to the likes of the Browns a little bit higher. But I find it all just absolutely delightful. There's Stefanski Cousins ties year one in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Wait, were they were there?
I
They were crossover.
I believe so.
Okay, so like there's probably so that's why this is happening. Is they've had a conversation then. That's why we all know this.
Cal is texting me about golf DFS right now.
Well, let's move on to the Giants.
He was in the chat. He knows what I'm doing.
Yeah, I think we go 80% Cousins, 20% Dart. Is that right? And again, Dart, not Cousins. Jackson Dart, but Dart as in like a round 2 quarterback.
I know that's going to be confusing. He needs to change his name. 80%, 85% Cousins, 5% first round pick, like Ward goes to them, or they trade back and go Shador.
Okay.
And then 10%, a bridge / taking a flyer in the second, third round kind of thing.
All right, we are in business. Cam Ward lands in New York, in my opinion. I think he's going to be the Giants guy. I think this Stafford Giants stuff is nonsense, personally. And if the Giants do that, then that tells you even more than anything that this is just a delusional franchise and front office. I think given that they have second life now, finally getting a quarterback drafted and developing him gives these guys 2 more years at least there. And I don't know. I think I think there's a realistic world where Cam Ward is your week 1 starter and they hit the reset clock with that regime. What do you think?
Yeah. I'm not used to wearing my glasses. I just keep touching them and smearing them up. There's some mix up with my contacts and they do not work. It's driving up the wall.
If you needed me to read you that comment from Alex Hussey, it was 85% Cousins. Sounds like my great grandparents. Very well done. Tweet of the show so far. I mean, comment.
If Cam Ward is available at 3, feels like 1,000% you take him.
Yeah.
Because of what they said, what ownership said, what management said.
Mm-hmm.
The GM, the coaching staff, you're coming back, but you're on thin fucking ice. Like, when you are on thin ice, when you are on the hot seat, you can't think about 2026, 2027, any of those years. You have to think about, I have to hit on something this year, and you can't go into the season without a quarterback. So it's basically like, it's kind of when you have like free play from you sign up for a new sports book, you have free play. You can't take it with you.
Yeah.
You have to go something risky because if it hits, you bought yourself like 5 more years as the New York Giants head coach.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, you were probably gone. Cam Ward not working out year 1 is the same as every other scenario.
Yeah.
You're gone. So you have to take the risk. And
it has to be a Bryce Young not working out, not like a not working.
Can't be like, oh, Quinn Ewers didn't work out. Like,
yeah.
weird.
Or like Caleb Williams is a good example. Like, Caleb Williams had a bad year, but it still is like, that wasn't like so bad, even in the context of an all time rookie season from the next guy wasn't enough to really put Pace in the hot seat.
There was glimpses. He showed glances and glimpses and flashes. It looked good. It looked good at times.
Ward throwing the ball to Neighbors is going to have those too. So I think that's why you ultimately make this deal. And which brings in I'm
all right. So what is your doomsday scenario? Like Ward's off the board. What is their second option?
Not happening
because they are that's out of their control. If he's taken,
no.
What are they doing?
If there is pressure,
they should be looking to trade up.
They trade up
too.
Yeah. That's where I'm going with this.
But that's not a guarantee either. People aren't going to just
ultimately. I think cooler heads prevail. 1-3 swap, and
all right. I know that this
Ward
is
goes 1 to the Giants.
likely. It's likely, and it's neat. What happens if it doesn't? Like the Titans just they're not getting what they want from the Titans or the Giants. The Titans sit put. And Ward is off the board. Giants are drafting at 3.
You take QB2 on your board.
I think they have to like pull the emergency lever and draft Shador Sanders.
I think they do too.
Which is so bad, but
it's terrible. But I think they
like
do.
Like you said, they're in a weird spot, and I wonder if I think if you think Cam Ward is going to one of those first two teams, or the Raiders are trading up to get him,
Yeah.
I think there is a very good case for, and Sanders is going to keep falling in the odds boards and stuff.
Sure.
I think there's a good case for like an exacta. He goes 3, he goes to Giants, he goes top 5, and it's a bad pick and it's a bad idea, but I think
Yeah.
it happens because of where they're stuck.
Yeah.
It'd be fun.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, my antenna and my radar are literally like, once Tennessee kind of solidifies their decision on no QB, then bidding is open for the Raiders and the Giants. And I think I think what ultimately happens, Tennessee hears
Cleveland,
they hear the best offer that Vegas will give them, which probably includes a very high pick next year. And they're like, okay, do we go with that one and try to be the Bears, right? And get the first overall pick traded to us, which would be wild. Or do we just accept the 1-3 swap, take a blue chip defender of our choice, and and then we get something from the Giants? It's probably not going to be that good. Maybe it will be. I don't know. But yeah, no, I kind of think ultimately they hear the best offer from the Raiders and then accept whatever the Giants are willing to give them. That's slightly better.
I'm with you.
Cam Ward, I think, is like, I'm pretty, my probability is pretty high. I'm going to say 70% Ward and 30% Sanders. It's that 29% Sanders, 1% absolute absurd wild card.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm like 50 Ward, 30 Sanders, and then 10%. Oh my God! Like we're gonna have to. I guess we're sending Jameis.
Oh, good times.
Honestly, I think your
right.
next option there is probably Darnold. If you strike out in the draft, you might have to go pay up for Darnold. Again, if you can convince yourselves,
I feel like the Darnold thing has to get settled before the draft.
Maybe.
The Darnold thing gets settled in March, man.
I don't know when did it was about the time Cousins got signed, but I mean that was a mega deal. All right, let's move to the next.
Okay.
We're not getting very far.
Like no, we're talking about the important stuff. This is good.
That's right.
The next team is not the Pats, it's not the Jags, it is the Raiders. So 6th overall drafting. I don't think there's really a world here where touchdown Tommy tries to do the rehab move with a older quarterback, right? It's and this one's tricky because let's talk about
Stafford today.
That's maybe the one kind of Stafford trade that I would be like, oh, interesting. That would not shock me, but I also don't. I think Stafford just comes back, but we'll see. My general read is Chip Kelly, mobile quarterback in the draft. What do you think? Pete Carroll doesn't want to coach an old snarly vet. He didn't hire Chip Kelly to run a trad-fi offense.
So the problem is they're in a tough spot. There's 3 quarterback needy teams ahead of them. And best case scenario for them is that 2 of them sign Stafford and Darnold, I guess, and leave something for them. Spytech has said he'll look to trade up. And I think they need to, because there's just too many teams ahead of them and not enough
Spytech was a Bucks guy.
Yeah, he's the new GM under Brady. Mark Davis, but I'm just gonna call Brady the owner now.
Sure.
I don't know what the move is there. I think honestly the best move for them, if they can't get the trade up, I'd love to see them do the thing where they go look at some of these 2nd round, 3rd round quarterbacks too.
Okay.
Because
bridge. Man, so you think there's bridge?
I hate being out on Sanders completely, but man, the arm strength just probably isn't there, and he's.
Okay.
I don't know that he's the answer.
Can you give me in the world of bridges? Can you give me the percent probability that we get a reunited and it feels so good between Pete Carroll and Geno Smith?
Geno Russ?
I was going to do Russ next, but Smith,
Yeah.
Russ, either one. Are we going to get a reunited bridge quarterback thing with Pete Carroll? He brings in one of his old guys.
Man, if I'm doing bridge quarterback, I'm just paying Jacoby Brissett like $6 million.
You might get Russ for that.
If you're punting on the season, just
You're not going to
Brissett
get
or
Geno
somebody.
for that, but you could get Russ for something.
Well,
something
and
pretty
Geno's under contract.
affordable.
You can't get Geno.
No, it's
this
just
year.
that would be a trade. You would be giving up assets.
Yeah, you'd have to
him,
trade
and
for
then
Geno.
sign him longer term, right? No, Pete and Geno are Dunzo, says out of the half. Okay, I wonder if Pete would bring back Russell as a bridge. That would be another. Again, if I'm writing the script, the Raiders are going to be a dumpster fire, hilarious punchline anyway. You might as well give us Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll on the sideline together, chomping their gum and selling their concussion water.
Yeah.
Like that's
if the Giants get Cam,
selling their
it does feel
dangerous
like
sandwiches.
it feels like a landing spot, the obvious landing spot for Sanders. So I think there's a decent chance of Sanders just ending up here.
Okay.
And at least you tried. You went and got a rookie, you got someone young, you got an unknown. Try to make it happen.
I got one other name for you, and this is more serious than Russell Wilson. Justin Fields.
He's young. That's the thing.
He's young. He's a little bit of an out of the box kind of guy. You put him in a Chip Kelly system. What does that look like?
That's pretty fun. I can't believe I didn't see that. You're seeing it in 3D right now. No, that kind of fits. He's 25. He's like 25 years old. Like he's got a lot of tread on the tires. I don't think the Steelers are looking to bring him back because, I mean, if the Steelers wanted Justin Fields, they would have played Justin Fields last year.
Yeah, right.
They had opportunities to say, "Hey, Justin Fields is our quarterback." God, that's a fun one. That's my dream cast one. Like my wish cast.
Okay.
I want that.
Okay, that would be fun as hell. All right, let's keep moving on.
They have some good receiver. Bowers is good.
Yeah.
Jacoby Myers is good.
I think it's 70-30 draft bridge. And if it's a bridge, I lean towards the younger than one of the older retreads, but we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. The New York Jets.
I don't know. Remember when I said the Raiders were in trouble because there's teams ahead of them that need a quarterback?
Yeah.
Well, the Jets have another one in front of them. They have multiple teams looking to trade up because the Giants and Raiders are already probably looking to move up. The Jets have said they would be open to moving up. They also said they'd be open to trading that pick away, which I think is the move.
Whoa.
There's been a lot. So there's been some smoke with Derek Carr going there. A lot of people are feeling like that's a match.
I was going to ask you about that. So what the mechanics of that look like what? Because they're not going to take on that money, which means it's a cut situation. The cut happens late. So basically, like, we come out of the draft and everybody's like, so the Jets this year, Tyrod Taylor, like that, is that the placeholder until they get Carr snapped up after the draft? Like, is that really the mechanics we're talking about?
So I think even if they do the June 1st, they have to pay him like his $25 million. So I think it is one of those where you have to pay him anyway, even if you restructure. There's some non-guaranteed money that I think you can get rid of, but I think if he's on the team or not, the Saints are paying him most of the money anyway. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's kind of like Russ Light, where the Jets could get him pretty cheap, and then they could obviously invest in some free agents with the money they saved, which they're going to need in a few spots. So
but are they selling the fans out of the draft that this is us, Tyrod Taylor?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to go do something. You have to go get someone. I don't think you're not getting one of the young quarterbacks. I don't think you can sell the fans on, hey, we got Jackson Dart. It's a whole new era here in New York football. Gangrene, let's go. You have to go get one of these guys. It has to be because they're the Jets. And I don't know, their coaching staff is, fresh as well. So maybe they're in a spot where they're fine taking a gap year and backpacking around Europe. But It feels like if you want to put butts in the seats, you got to go get a quarterback, and that means Cousins, Darnold, Carr, Stafford. And the realistic nature of like 2 or 3 of those is kind of low. It feels like I think Carr is just
probably lands there.
It's a fit by attrition.
Is there any universe where they try to sell their fans on Jordan Travis being ready to go as a young quarterback prospect?
I don't think that's a thing.
You don't think that's a thing?
You didn't even sell me on that.
Well, he would be their QB2 if the season started today, and we missed the whole last season because of the ACL, right? Or he was on the non-football, or he was on the reserve non-football injury. He was on the NFI for all of last year. I don't know. Was he good enough to be in the mix with some of the guys that got drafted in that incredible class last year? I honestly don't know enough about him. Okay, well, I think
he obviously dropped a lot. I think it was like a 5th round.
Yeah, but it was because of the knee, right?
It feels like that Florida State season was 100 years ago. It was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I don't think he's playing into our.
Okay.
I don't think he's playing into our calculus here.
No, I'm trying to understand what the mechanics are of them communicating to their fans, right? Because like to me, it seems very, very tough. Whoever ultimately is sitting down with their owner and their franchise and their team, and they're like, okay, it's gonna be Carr, but we gotta wait until June so we can get him for cheap, right? Like, what are we doing between now and then to communicate our plan? Whoever it is, it's going to be tough.
It's a work in progress, guys. Just stay with us. Promise. It's one of those things, too, where if the team comes out and says, hey, we're cutting him, the Saints are cutting him June 1st. And, I mean, it can be one of those things where everybody knows where he's going, and that deal can be worked out in principle in May, and we just are waiting for it. Okay.
Let's move on then. I have no idea how to build out the Jets probability distribution, but trading up seems low. Drafting seems low if they're taking the 3rd QB off the board, and the free agency options suck. I think the funniest outcome would be pretty obvious, right? Pay Sam Darnold to come back.
Yeah, I mean, Darnold back to the Jets. I don't think it's even like I don't think that's like a 0 probability.
That's fine. Aaron Glenn prepped for Darnold twice. He might have been like watching that tape, like, God, this guy's got something. We're really going to have a tough time tonight. And then ultimately they didn't, but you know what I mean?
It's like, oh, I'm Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn did his ass.
Darnold back on the Jets would be hilarious. Carr would be depressing just because that keeps the AFC East terrible. All right. The New Orleans or Carolina Panthers I wanted to talk about briefly. Give me a number, probability that Bryce Young is their guy in week 1.
99.9.
Whoa.
Again, if there was some like prize out there in the free agency pool, would you be like, man, you know, he really came along and we're invested in this kid, but what if Taylor Heineke a look?
The Panthers are now a broader minded franchise in terms of like thinking about building a roster, right? Is there any way that they are sitting around chewing the tape and convincing themselves that they might have a long-term answer in Bryce Young?
Honestly, I don't know how I feel about him. He looked very confident when he came back from his timeout. Like, we saw what he did in college. We saw what he's capable of. Yeah, he's little, but he looked pretty good at times.
Knowing Dr. E, I feel like when you know you've got a guy, or you don't know, and that means you don't have a guy, right?
No, but we do.
And when you don't have a guy, you draft. No, I think
this is the dumbest.
Are you serious?
No, the Discord did this too. They talk about the Panthers like Eric is the GM.
I know, but he's a voice in the room.
He's a voice in the room, but he's one of many. Like Eric is not where the buck stops. We keep assuming like Eric Eager went to the Panthers and suddenly they're complete Moneyball team and they can make all the smart moves. Like he is one voice of many. They still have a GM that I
Well,
don't
what if
love.
his voice makes sense to someone and they're like, hey, the data, we've got the data. He's not getting any bigger. He's a guy that needs a lot of help. We can't go get that help. We're not going to be a winning team unless we swing and hit on someone else in the draft. And so we might as well swing, right? Like that's not crazy to me.
I mean, they took Leggett in the first round. I'm still not sold on the front office.
Okay.
I think we need to pump the brakes on Charlotte being smart. I love Dr. E, and hopefully he does, make some changes down there. But yeah, I'm still a little out on the Panthers being the smartest team in the room.
Okay. All right. Well, we move on then. We'll leave it at 99.9.
They did sign Andy Dalton.
I'm fine saying I'm fine putting it in like the, I don't know, the 90 plus range, but I think there's a non-zero chance that they're like this, we're close enough to the top of the draft. There are some prospects that we can find a way to talk ourselves into. So we'll see. I don't think they're in we're signing a shitty free agent market, but who knows? Anyway, the Andy Dalton signing does signal that they're probably just status quo. And
I would think so.
I mean,
Andy Dalton just got to be happy to do that job one more year.
The over-under for Bryce Young in terms of EPA per play next year is what, Andy?
0.25.
How about ranking out of the...
Oh, I thought you meant... I mean...
Yeah. Of everybody who starts week 1.
18.5.
Okay.
There's going to be some bad quarterbacks out there again.
18.5 actually sounds pretty reasonable. I would have probably put it at 20.5 myself, or 19.5, kind of on that 20 cusp. But
yeah,
if we're saying that the median outcome is he's probably got the 20th best quarterback in year 3, I mean, they're not extending him, right?
No, he'd need to be like middle of the pack or better this year, and then building on that next year.
Okay.
And then otherwise you're not doing 550 or you're not doing extension.
Okay. Who suits up with the fleur de lis on his helmet in 2025 week 1?
So in this exercise,
are we being too quick to pack Mr. Carr's bags?
No, I think because of the money, there's a lot of scenarios where they keep him because it's complicated to get rid of him and try to save anything anyway. You can. I mean, some of it you're paying no matter what, like I said. You can do some creative things and maybe, get him to restructure and then cut him anyway. But I don't know. It feels like he's 50-50 that he comes back. Like, I'm not completely saying he's gone. It's what they're doing. The issue is, like, if you do cut him and you're paying him to play for somebody else, we saw what Rattler was. We saw what Hainer was. And suddenly, I know I keep building on this. Suddenly, you're the team that's behind the Titans and the Browns and the Giants and the Raiders and the Jets in the draft. You're certainly not getting something without trading up. I don't think you have a war chest that's going to allow you to move up anyway. I don't know who they would go with then at this point. It does feel like
if they really do
bridge.
If they do jettison Carr, I feel like you probably can't afford anyone, so you might as well just start Rattler.
I mean,
his over-under's kind of in the Bryce Young range, isn't it? 22.5, 23.5.
Mac Jones,
28.5.
You can get Mac Jones for like $2.5-3 million a year. Like you got to do better than Rattler. I guess it depends how the team feels about Rattler. If they think, hey, he just didn't have enough time to prep, we liked him, that's why we drafted him, we think he should get a shot, you still go sign somebody a little further down, somebody cheap. Winston, Jones, Stidham, I mean Justin Fields, if somebody else doesn't snag him. You have a competition between Rattler and him.
I think there's also a world where the ownership and the GM there are still delusional in terms of feeling competitive, and they do something dumb like Aaron Rodgers, right? Like that's part of their distribution is like,
that would
we
be
can,
pretty funny.
yeah, we Aaron Rodgers and Derek Carr trade teams. Who says no? I mean, I wouldn't be. I mean, if I was Aaron Rodgers, if that would be at the top of my list, if I was not going to retire, I'd want to play in a dome, and I would want to throw to guys like Olave and Rashid.
I think that's why he said he wanted to, go to the Rams. If Stafford's gone, like that's a high priority spot for him. Just play indoors, be in California. Like,
sure,
that makes sense. If Stafford does go somewhere, it makes a ton of sense, obviously.
Okay. Okay. So Saints is a big giant question mark, but we think
it's half car, half bridge.
Half car, half bridge.
40% bridge, 10%
Rattler. Stupid Rattler.
I think Rattlers.
That 10% Rattler is like literally like take your medicine.
Yeah.
Medicine year.
Sit and spin.
Yeah. There was some medicine years last year. There's some medicine years every year for these teams, and the Saints haven't had one in a while. The Saints may also try to. Well, we'll see.
Purdy's a 99.9 for me.
Okay.
They are currently negotiating a contract with him. What that looks like will be very interesting. It feels like they probably get something done. And
do you think he takes a hometown discount? Because like that money will spend pretty well in the middle of Iowa, man.
They don't have a team. So you play for the Barnstormers?
No, I'm just saying. Didn't he live in Iowa? Like every time I heard him, like he was at the bye week, he was like pictures of him like on his farm, like
on his combine,
mowing wheat. Yeah, on the combine,
mowing wheat.
Oh, whatever they call it is that what they call it? Mowing the wheat, harvesting the wheat. Yeah.
Do you know why a combine is called a combine?
Because it's a combination cutter / sorter.
A picker and a thresher.
A picker and a thresher, of course.
I got to think of what did Jethro Tull invent? Let's talk about the agricultural revolution a little bit. But no, I do believe they get something done. No, it's taxed by the state it was earned in, but it still buys a lot of Casey's Pizza. I think he'll find a deal, and maybe this is a good situation for the team that they weren't as successful last year, and they can kind of use that in negotiations. Hey, it wasn't your best year. You're not getting the big deal.
Would you be scared about signing him with the elbow?
I think the elbow is okay.
Got hurt again at the end of the year. 2 years in a row. 3 years? No, 2 out of 3 years.
It's another one too, where what else are you going to do? Like that's a situation for every single 14 of these teams we're talking about. What else are you going to do? Can you get Stafford? Do you think your window is?
I mean, if you're Shanahan, don't you just think I'm God? I can do it with whoever I want. Get Kirk Cousins. Try to steal Kirk Cousins from Kevin O'Connell. Darnold? Bring Darnold back?
No.
It's gonna be cheaper than Purdy. What do you think the delta is between the AAV for Darnold and Purdy?
Purdy by about $8 million.
That's it?
Per year, though.
What do you think the delta is in AAV between the redone Pat Mahomes contract and Purdy?
I don't know if I would say. I'm just completely ignoring your question because it's stuck in my head. I don't know if I'm Shanahan, I'm terrified to sign Darnold. What if he's bad in San Francisco? And it just makes you look like I'm a worse coach than I was. Kevin O'Connell outclassed me by doing this with him last year. I can't do it with anybody. I was a Purdy merchant. I don't know. That would be in my head.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I think they pay him. I'm moving on.
Okay. What do you think the delta is between Mahomes' restructure and Purdy for AAV?
I don't know what Mahomes' restructure is for an AAV. Like,
it can be big.
34? What was it?
No, it's going to be much bigger than that.
Well, I thought he moved it down, so it's all backloaded.
Well, I know, but the AAV
Well, he's
over
at
the life.
45. He's
Yeah.
at 45. Oh my god.
Yeah. It's gonna be much higher than that. I think it's gonna be like around 60 personally.
Here's the other thing too that we haven't mentioned yet with
What's that?
the paying Carr to kick rocks, with the re-signing Geno, re-signing Purdy, paying Darnold, paying any of these guys. The cap just went up again.
Right.
It's like, oh, all these teams were like in cap hell. Oh, guess what? we
It went up more than expected. Yes.
Yeah, we took a jack and raised the roof. They're fine. Colts. I defer to you in this. I don't know where their head's at.
Dak Prescott's AAV was 60. I think that's where the number starts for Pat. Pat's total number is going to be so much bigger because he's already got 10 years for 50. But I think they put on 2 more and bumped the AAV to 60. That's my read. Anyway, I think the Purdy Mahomes delta is going to be about 15. I think Purdy gets in at 45 and Pat's new one is 60. That's my gut. And if you take 8 off of that to 37, that sounds actually like the right Darnold number too. So I think we're actually probably pretty close. Anyway, Miami, Indy. Oh, Indy. Anthony Richards is 90%.
I guess it doesn't feel like they're super confident in him, but
I thought that
what are your options?
I thought that the actually weirdly the hiring of getting rid of Gus Bradley and bringing in Big Lou for the Colts, to me, kind of spelled like there's no panic, business as usual. We're continuing on this development arc until we play it out.
Okay,
is that crazy?
It's not nuts. And again, you don't have someone else on roster to push him. You do need to go find one of these free agents and sign him. Like, there needs to be somebody behind him working with him. And I think it does make more sense to get, I don't know, Flacco was at 40 was the right choice, and they ended up playing, obviously. But, the Brissetts, the Mariotas, somebody with some wisdom to impart on the young man. I think that makes sense.
Okay.
I'm not sold on him being good. He's fun, but I'm not sold on him being good, and I think you got to see it out another year.
Okay. The Falcons, 95% Penix. 98%.
Yeah, I mean they're just starting him. They drafted him high. They have to start him.
They saw flashes.
Yeah, the interesting part is like that they're just going to eat it with Kirk right away. And I guess for as much as we clowned on them and made fun of it,
well, that's why I respect.
What pick
did they take him with?
8th.
And what quarterback number was he?
4th.
And you're telling me that the Panthers aren't going to take the 4th quarterback 8th this year?
Yes, I am going to tell you that. Can you imagine if 4 quarterbacks said we might be a month down the road. We might get through the Colorado Pro Day, and there might be a mock draft that has Sanders out of the 1st.
Wow.
I think somebody's going to have that hot take.
Whoa.
I don't think it's correct because supply and demand, and he's going, but someone's going to be like, he's not a first round.
I think the week 1 starters who are rookies over under market is like a flat 1.
Yeah.
Like it'll be a little bit of an upset if there's a second one, and there might not even be one. Yeah.
You set it at 1 minus 200 to the over.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Get somebody to play it.
Yeah, exactly. All right. And then that's the bridge jumper. They're like, wait, what do you mean Cam Ward's not starting? It's going to be Will Levis week 1. What do you mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm on record as hating how they went about it last year, signing the mega deal and then drafting someone in the top 10. It worked out in the long run. It was still a terrible process, but I respect the hell out of them for cutting bait and just saying, we're going to pay him to leave. Like it didn't work out. We're not going to, just because we spent the money and it's sunk cost, we're not going to stick with him and set the franchise back.
Okay. I'm not going to disagree with you. A little intermission to note that the Celtics and the Pistons having a face-off between our 6 men of the year candidates, Peyton Pritchard and Malik Beasley, and at halftime they are playing to a draw. Each has scored 12 points.
Did you see the shit?
Yeah.
Did you see the dunk? The Shaden Sharp dunk?
No, I didn't. Was it awesome?
You probably got to see it. I mean, he starts at like the 3-point line, man.
Oh, hell yeah.
That's
you know who is actually, you know who's quietly like the most fun watching the NBA right now is the freaking Blazers, man. The Portland Trail Blazers are like kind of a fun young team to watch play basketball. Did not think I would be saying that. Spoon. I did not think I would be saying that in February of 2025. That's for sure. Henderson, Sharp, even Klingon can play. Like they have like a decent little young core there. And Denny Abdja is a good player too. Like these guys are all fine players. And Tumani Kamara actually rating really well for them. Weird. Anyway,
where were we?
The
our next one was Seattle. So I don't know what you've read on this, but
I didn't love the vote
feel lukewarm on Gino for the extension. I guess if you talk yourself into it, you blame the offensive line. The offensive line was bad last year, and maybe that caused him some issues, especially the red zone turnovers were inexcusable. Like that rate was incredibly high, way too high. But if you want to say as a GM, as a member of the ownership management, whatever, the offensive line was bad last year. We disliked Grubb enough that we fired him. Gino deserves another chance. And, I mean, he's going to get another chance. He's under contract. But I think we can give you a 2-year extension rather than something sizable. And, some of that is based on his age as well. So, I don't know. It feels like they do come to a deal, but it's shorter. And, obviously he starts.
Right now, they owe him how much cash guaranteed? It is a hilariously low number.
That's the other thing. You kind of got to do right by him because he's barely even on this
list. Oh my god! I have to change the list to only quarterbacks to even find him. He was so far down. Holy shit! They owe him zero. He has 0 guaranteed. That seems crazy. They are either lame ducking him for $31 million this year, or they're going their separate ways and paying him nothing.
I think they work something out, unless they have some plan for 2026.
The fact that it's starting at 31 actually makes me not as sure of that. Right?
I don't know what the plan would be there.
Russell Wilson.
Jesus. It's another thing. Like, if you say we're not going to extend you, you're playing as lame duck this year, or you're playing for a contract, maybe we'll do something at the end of the year. But then the problem with that is if he does play well, then you're bidding against people. Like that's your quandary. It's like if you don't extend him, you are banking on him playing poorly.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he plays well and it goes well, and the changes you made to the offensive coordinator and anything you also do personnel wise through the draft or free agency, if it works out and he plays well, then one of two things happen. You're either bidding against other teams to sign him again, or he just goes somewhere else and makes an opponent better.
Yeah.
So I guess it depends if you think he's going to be good or not. If you don't believe in him, don't sign him. Let him go. Let him play the year out.
So that was like the weird thing is that I kind of assumed from all the stuff I had heard that they were just definitely done with Tyler Lockett, right?
I've heard that a lot, yeah.
And then the quotes from Schneider about Tyler Lockett and Geno Smith were like,
they're the same.
Copy paste, right? So it's like, they're gonna have a conversation. We'll see how that goes. I don't know that I have a super strong feeling about what's going on there. And I was surprised that they fired the OC after 1 year. Did you get that? That makes sense to you?
Oh, yeah.
Why did he grow?
I guess they didn't like him. It wasn't working out. They didn't love the way he ran the offense. Apparently.
He wasn't coming to work early enough, wasn't staying late enough. Like, oh, it was really surprising. That was one of the stranger decisions.
Of the firings for sure.
Yeah. Well, all right.
I'm at like 100% Gino. I just want to talk about the contract, which leads us to the Steelers.
This is another one where I'm throwing my hands up like with the Jets. There were some people who were speculating that they might be in on the let's go get Matt Stafford discussion. I don't think so. I don't really know what fits. Do you know what I'm saying?
Rank your Sam Darnold landing spots because they got the money.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Let's just say Aaron Rodgers either ends up in LA or retired. Cousins is in Cleveland. Yeah. You've got 2 openings in New York. You've got a few other spots. Rank your Sam Darnold spots.
Number 1 would be Pittsburgh. Number 2 would be the Jets. I think it would be the Jets. Number 2 would be the Jets. I'm going to say that more sincerely. They do have some weapons. They might be able to pass pro him. Number 3. Man, Jesus. This is getting bad. Number 3 would be the Raiders, I think. I don't know. I don't want to. I'm literally just pushing him way. I do not want him in Tennessee, Cleveland, or the Giants. I do not want to marry him to the Saints or the. Yeah, I don't want to marry him to the Saints or the. I don't think he's going back to Minnesota. So,
No.
He could step in and be the Rams guy if the Rams do move.
Yeah, I had Rams, Steelers, Jets are kind of the spots if Stafford does end up moving.
Rams makes sense, I guess. Rams, Steelers, Jets. That sounds right to me. Steelers would be good though, because that is like the fact that the Steelers went last year with the straight face and they were like bringing in Art Smith to run this thing, and we're bringing in Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, and they straight face were like, this is the plan. Makes me think that they kind of have drunk their own Kool-Aid to the tune of where they're like, we'll go over 500. We'll win with whoever. Sam Darnold, this is an upgrade. Do it. Go.
If you're in the camp that you believe that Sam Darnold was only good because of Kevin O'Connell and, probably Justin Jefferson as well.
That's a bigger part, I think.
Addison's not bad. It's a pretty big downgrade for 2 of those spots. Obviously, playing for McVay is a pretty decent offensive coordinator. It's a similar system, even.
Puka.
KOC was a LA guy, but Arthur Smith and maybe some people have softened their stance on him. I feel like that's a massive downgrade. And then, can you name the Jets' offensive coordinator? You can't. I mean,
No,
the answer is no.
don't know.
I had to
I
look.
don't
I had
know
to
what it
look
is.
it up too. I knew they hired someone from Detroit or something. Tanner Ingstrad.
I had a better chance of coming up with that than the Jags GM.
Tanner Ingstrad. The Jags GM looks like he's 4.
Probably very good at Madden though.
Yeah, he was the passing game coordinator for the Lions. So maybe that actually works out. He worked with Ben Johnson for a couple of years, but I think the Steelers feel like
big Celtics position. Right now, I'm projecting the Celtics by 2, so hopefully you got a decent number. Steelers bridge again, but actually, you know what? Like Sam Darnold is that to me that actually that's like that fits a fine 3-year arc, right? They gave him 3 years, $35 million a year, right at that arc. Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, I know a lot of people like that. The Jets or the Steelers. I don't know if it's gonna be good, but it does make sense. Ugh. I don't think we've come to like a conclusion
I
for
keep
any of the teams
this.
where we've said about a team like this is probably what they're gonna
Well,
do.
actually,
and I'm excited about it.
Not
Like
excited about any of it. No, fuck no.
we should have
This
power
is-
ranked our exciting
Yeah,
levels.
this is all the teams without quarterbacks trade their terrible quarterbacks. Who says no? Like that's this year's
So they
offseason.
just mix and match them. Two people get rookies. One takes Stafford, one takes Darnold, one takes Cousins, one takes Rodgers. We haven't had Rodgers as a landing spot yet. I would like him to just retire.
Yeah, I would too. I think he's a fine. I think he is the bridge option in New Orleans. Personally, that seems like the kind of thing where they talk themselves into cap's fake. We're still competing. We have a good team. We just got hurt last year. We got to, I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to say that the Sam Darnold to Pittsburgh actually feels pretty high likelihood, like higher than 20%, which is high considering I threw my hands up when we got to the Steelers. So that seems the most likely to me. What about the Minnesota Vikings? JJ McCarthy? Question mark.
Yeah, I mean, everybody who's got sources with the team says they've been saying it since the end of the playoffs.
Okay. And he's got a
started.
very capable backup in Daniel Jones, or pushing him to start week 1 Daniel Jones?
I feel like it's always got to be JJ. Unless
Week
he's
1.
not ready. Yeah, unless he's not ready medically, you start him week 1. You have to see what you have.
It was a clean, weird ACL, right? Like surprising.
Yeah. But it was in like July, man. It was early. So we're talking he should be fine by camp. He should be, 14 months out by the time the season starts. Yeah. I think he's okay.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean, everybody who's had any news connected to the team has just said Darnold's not likely to be back, but there are scenarios where they could do some sort of extension and trade or a tag and trade, but they don't think they're going to tag him.
Okay.
So I think there's options with Darnold, but they're certainly not going to give him big money to back up.
I dig it. All right. Time for the final $1 million question. What is your percent chance that Matthew Stafford starts week 1 for the La Rams?
Like 50-50?
50-50.
It feels like there's a lot of smoke in it. It feels like he is.
Whoa.
Are you lower than that on him moving? You were kind of alluding to it. You were thinking he'd be back. The fact that my math is the fact that he wanted to explore this. This was something he is looking to do, which means he's not completely sold on coming back. And the fact that there are a shitload of options. There are 10 other teams.
He's the best option for a team that has no quarterback right now.
Yeah. So somebody looking long-term, it doesn't make a ton of sense. But especially if you're like, we should punt on this year. We trust the process. We're in rebuild mode. We don't want Stafford to come and get us like the 14th pick next year. We should just start Mac Jones and get the 8th pick. Like, why would we go sign Stafford at this point? But for about a half dozen teams, he makes a ton of sense. Obviously, the Giants, if they don't get their rookie, they're in a do or die situation as for their jobs. The Jets always need somebody. They always feel like they're ready to compete. I mean, even Minnesota, like, with that team kind of arcing where they're at, and if the defense improves again this year, like it's not out of the realm of possibilities that JJ sits one more year. I think that's very small, but I mean the Saints always believe in themselves, like you said. The Colts, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world either. They got an offensive line. They got a couple of receivers. Like there's a bunch of teams where he makes sense, and obviously the Jets was the big one. But even the Steelers?
If they ship him, what's the rest of your probability land on? Because with Stafford, I feel like the AFC West and NFC West goes through the Rams still. Without him, I don't.
I would think they get somebody young in the draft, or bring in somebody to compete with Garoppolo. Garoppolo started in this league. I mean, he had some good years. You're kind of a young team.
Just a couple of years ago, he was in the Super Bowl, if I remember.
He was a Super Bowl quarterback.
Just a couple of years ago. Yeah.
So is Trent Williams. This is Brad Johnson, guys. Bunch of lookers there. Bunch of handsome faces.
Trent Dilfer, you meant? Did you say Trent Williams?
Did I say Trent Williams?
Trent Dilfer. I thought you knew you were going with Trent Dilfer, but I was like, did you say
Trent Williams?
He was also in the Super Bowl. That same year he was. Yeah. All right. Well,
should name the hottest quarterbacks to ever make the Super Bowl.
You've talked me into 50-50. I'm going to go the Rams starting quarterback, 50% Stafford, 50% Goff. That sounds about right to me.
Yeah, I'm with that. Who's the second sexiest quarterback to ever play in a Super Bowl?
I mean, the people.
Name it.
There were a couple of younger folks who did social for
Jalen Hurts.
They were. Yes, they were like, he's obviously the hottest quarterback in the league. I was like, oh, okay.
I'm a married man, but
they were very high on Mr. Hurts's.
He's definitely Mount Rushmore. He's in Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, they were trying to talk me into getting my ear pierced and do the Jalen Hurts thing. I'm like,
Broadway Joe, he was a sex symbol.
Yeah, that's fair.
Susie Colbert might not vote for him.
That's fair. I would say Tom Brady, but the way he's done with his face is really affecting my perception.
Yeah, he looks like that. What was the name of that vampire movie?
Interview with the Vampire. Oh, Nosferatu.
Yeah, he looks like that guy, but without the rotten stuff.
Yeah, I think my favorite joke was Brady's had so much work he can't kiss his son on the lips anymore.
That's terrible. That's terrible. Brady was a good-looking guy. I'll give him the fourth spot.
Brady was a good-looking guy. Kurt Warner, good-looking guy. Salt and Pepper, definitely.
Puffy jacket. Yeah, out in the puffy jacket.
Fair enough. Okay.
You know what? Steve Young was a.
Steve Young was he was
a handsome
Mormon sex symbol.
Is that a thing? I think there was
so.
A Mormon sex symbol. It was Jim McMahon.
Oh.
I don't think he was Mormon. Was he? Do you have to be Mormon to go BYU?
I think so. I don't know if you have to be, but you almost certainly are.
To go to Notre Dame? I don't think so.
Definitely not. No.
All right. Let's call it. We're gonna be off again next week. Drew's skiing. I'm gonna try to catch up. I'm gonna catch up on combine stuff, draft stuff, everything. We'll get some more mock drafts out. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And we'll reconvene in 2 weeks and kind of go.
Unlike everyone else who will be breaking down March Madness, we'll talk about something weird. Yes. We will not tell you how to win your bracket pool because we don't know.
I didn't do too bad. I lost my wife last year.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. Steve Young is the great-great-grandson of Brigham Young.
Is he?
Yeah.
That's got to be. Is Holt pulling our leg?
No. You want to hear a weird connection? Do you ever have the thing? I don't know if other people obsess about this when you see someone and you're like, God, what were they in? What do I know them from?
Sure.
And like, you have to look it up. You pull up the IMDb. I have the IMDb app, like on the phone. So my wife is rewatching. She's doing a rewatch of Grey's Anatomy.
Okay.
As it turns out, there is 20 seasons of that.
What?
And this is from back in the day when there wasn't
network television. There's 20 episodes per season. There's 400 episodes of Grey's Anatomy.
At least. I mean, she's been at it for like a month, and she's in season 3 because she doesn't get a lot of time. We have kids. She has a job. There was
wait a minute. She wants to watch Grey's Anatomy when she's at the hospital all day.
I know.
What is going on here?
She gets so mad when they do stuff wrong because she's worked in surgery.
No.
What they would never do.
No.
You can't do that.
No.
He's an AFib. You can't do that.
No.
Either way, there was a guest star. It was a cardiac surgeon that they brought
Okay.
on, this blonde woman.
Yeah.
She looks so familiar. Her facial
Katherine
structure
Heigl?
looks so familiar. No, she's one of the main actresses.
Oh, okay.
So I don't catch all the episodes, but I'm like, God, I know this girl from
You gotta
something.
track that episode down and look at the cast at IMDb just to see who it was.
Well, they said her name, like Doctor
okay.
whatever her name was. So I wrote Doctor whatever her name was, Grey's Anatomy actress. And I pick it up and I bring up IMDb, and my wife's like, "Well, what is she from?" I'm like, "Well, she was the girl in the pit in Silence of the Lambs.
She was the one that captured Precious in Silence of the Lambs.
She was the one that puts the lotion on its skin.
On its skin.
Oh, but I mean, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh yeah. That was the weirdest one I've run into, because it's usually just like, oh, she was on Suits.
Oh my God.
She had a minor part in Breaking Bad.
Unbelievable.
Like, such a weird one.
You know, that actually brings up one of the funnier parts of Silence of the Lambs. The scene where Jodie Foster finds her in the well and then leaves her, and she's like, "Don't you leave me, you fucking bitch." That absolutely crushes me, because it's like that would be a genuine reaction. Like, you would yell at the person there to save you if they walked away and got themselves killed and didn't save you. You'd just be like, "No, save me first," and then fucking go shoot Wild
Buffalo
Bill or
Bob.
whatever, Buffalo Bill. Oh my God.
The best
That's
scene.
great.
I mean, it's just a great movie, but the best scene is when she first goes to his door and she doesn't know that he is the killer, and she's asking about that girl, and he says, "Oh yeah,
Was she a great
big fat person?
Yeah, Frederica Bimmel. I don't know. I think we didn't know her. She's a great big fat
His voice
person.
kills me in that. And then obviously Goodbye Horses.
Yes. Incredible.
We'll see you guys in
James Gum. Yeah. All right, man.
We
Enjoy.
gotta hit the music. It's been a while. I don't know what I'm doing at this
It's under media assets. I'm pretty sure.
Goodbye Horses. Hopefully you don't get blocked on YouTube for singing that.
Goodbye Horses. Do you like the Q Lazarus version of that?
Yeah, that's the version from